The topic of today's video is suggested by my good friend Robert Baker. Thank you, Robert. If you guys want to suggest the next topic, leave it in the comments below. I might pick it and feature you in a future episode. Hi, David Wallimann here, and if you're watching this video, it probably means that you're interested in music theory, but you don't know where to start, you're confused, and you need a little help. I put together 5 things you can do to learn music theory much faster. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing you need to do is to learn your intervals. So yeah, I know what you're saying. You're probably saying, I thought these were tips to learn music theory faster, and what you're giving me is something to learn. Well, yes, but intervals, I don't consider them really as music theory. Intervals are to what music theory, what letters are to speech. So when you're in kindergarten, you learn how to trace letters. That's what intervals are. Intervals are going to be useful all the time. Any musical concept that you're learning, any musical theory concept that you learn are going to involve these intervals, which are, as I said, just like letters. When I'm talking to you, I'm using these letters in a particular order to make words. These words, one after the other, create sentences, and those are the ideas. And it's very, very important. And bonus point if not only you know your intervals, but also know how to play them on your instrument. That's going to speed up things even more. So you might say, where do I start? Well, that's coming at the end of the video. I've got something for you. It's free, and that's going to help you learn your intervals. But for now, just keep that in mind. Knowing your intervals is really going to speed things up, and it's not as complicated as you think. And I should add that some of you might think that I'm going to learn intervals, great, and then I'm never going to use them. That's not true. It's not like bar chords, for example. I don't know if you remember, if you've been playing for a while, especially if you're an electric guitar player. I've experienced that where I really struggled learning my bar chords 20 so years ago when I was starting to learn. And today, I rarely use bar chords. Maybe it's because of the style of music, but intervals is not like that. It's not the kind of thing that you need to learn and you're never really going to use. You're going to use them all the time. So learn your intervals. The next thing you need to do is to write down your questions. You should have a journal with you anywhere you go, and whenever you have a question, something that you encounter you're playing that you're not quite sure how to resolve, write it down. Now, it doesn't need to be fancy, just write it down how it is. It doesn't even need to fit your understanding of music theory right now. You might not know how music theory is going to help you with that, but still write your question. For example, you are going to an open jam night with your instrument, and you get on stage, and at some point, the bass player calls for the 4. So you nod, yeah, great, no problem. In your mind, you're like, what? I'm just going to stick to my pentatonic scale. It's going to be good. It will be good. But still, you had that question at some point. What does he mean by the 4? Again, that's just an example. Well, that's something you will write down in your little notepad. Go to the 4, confused, whatever. That's going to direct you in a particular path of learning. Finding the answer to that question is going to lead you down one of the paths, and music theory is such a broad topic that you've got to start somewhere, and I'm a strong believer that there's not one way to start. Well, there is, and that's intervals, which we covered before, but after that, there are multiple paths, and the best path for you is the one that's going to answer your pressing question, and that question is something that you will have if you have that notepad, so write it down as you go, and you'll see that that question is going to lead you to another question, which is the next step in your studies, and so on and so on. But having something where you can keep track of all those questions is really going to help you speed up the learning curve. My next tip is to learn from multiple sources. You might think that that's counterproductive. It's not. Here's why. When you're learning music theory, you are going to target your studies on a specific question, which we covered in the previous section here, whatever's written on your notepad. So you're going to start searching that particular topic. And you're going to find that there are a lot of opinions on that topic, a lot of different answers, and some are not going to fit your understanding. That's okay. That's good. If you study how the 4 happens, for example, what is that for? And you get two conflicting answers, that's where you put your scientist hat and you try to find the truth in that. And that's a fun game to have, because once you have the truth, once you really understand how that fourth works, or whatever musical theory concept it is, once you really understand it for yourself, you'll be able to pinpoint where the reasoning of one particular musician is flawed, and you'll be able to help him out, which is going to lead me to my next point. But it's very important to study from multiple sources. You're going to see a lot of different things. It might seem very confusing, but then you kind of pinpoint where the truth is. You try to find some common ground between all the different answers, and that's going to make you feel better about your personal growth, because you will be able to debunk some things, and you'll be surprised that in the end, if you can do that, it's all going to make sense for yourself. It's very important to clearly understand a particular concept. If you have any doubt at all, you probably don't have the right answer, which leads me to my next point. Having doubts and uncertainties in your understanding is a good thing, because it shows you that you haven't totally mastered that particular concept. So how do you know? The best way, and that again is going to speed up your learning curve, is to take a simple musical theory concept, intervals for example, and explain it to a non-musician. So that could be your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your whatever, but someone who is a non-musician, because that person is not going to have the musical baggage that a musician would have. He's not going to have any preconceived ideas. And most importantly, if you explain it to him and put yourself to his level, he's probably going to have other questions. You need to answer those. If you can't, that's going to be the next area of your study. It's like multiple paths that are offered to you, and you need to know which one. And oftentimes, the number one reason people don't learn music theory is that they don't know where to start. But if you take that approach of teaching a musical concept to someone else and taking that someone else's questions into consideration, those are going to show you the paths where you need to go. Again, I'm a strong believer that there are multiple paths in this particular topic, and you need to find the path that speaks to you, that interests you. Very important. And finally, probably one of the most important ways that you can speed up the learning of musical theory is to apply anything you learned. So, for example, you learned the Dorian mode, and you learned the formula of that Dorian mode. You learned that it's made of a root, a major second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, minor seventh. You need to apply that to your own playing. So how do you do that? Well, multiple ways to do it, but maybe you're going to write a chord, extract the chord from that particular mode, record that chord. So that's going to enhance your recording skills. Just a simple backing track, simple loop, and then phrase using that particular scale that you learned, the Dorian, for example, whatever musical concept it is, but apply it to your playing. And ask yourself the question, am I really applying what I learned? Yes, no. If it's no, well, then find the answers as to why not. And the next question is very important for your development. Do I like what I'm hearing? If the answer is no, that's okay. Music theory is not the absolute rule that is going to make everything sound great. No, it just explains things. And if you like what you're hearing, great. Take that, incorporate that aspect of music theory into your own playing even more. But if you don't like it, you can leave that aside. You can explain it now. You know why you don't like it. You know what it is. But you've got to apply it and ask yourself that question. Do I want to use that in my everyday playing or no? Both answers are totally fine. That's where you can grow your own musical personality, but that's really going to help you learn and make sense of what might seem very confusing right now. All right, so where do you start? Well, you start with intervals. Intervals is where you need to start if you want to make sense of things. Those are the letters that you're going to use in any musical theory concept that you're going to approach. I've got something for you as promised. Just check the link below. You can download my free music theory DNA sheet. That's going to answer the question, why do you need to learn intervals? Remember, questioning things is very important. That's one of the questions you might have had in your little notepad. Why do I need to learn intervals? That's going to help you. That's going to put you on the right path of learning. Do it. It's free. Just leave me your email so that I can send that to you. And also watch more videos on this channel, including the one that is tagged here, because that's also going to help learn intervals. It's a free lesson. It's an older lesson. I had longer hair and video production wasn't as good, but the material is still pretty good, I think. So thanks for watching this. Subscribe, share this around. Let me know if you have questions below in the comments too. I'll see you next time. Until then, I always end my videos with salut. So, salut.